Welcome to your next session of Dementia Awareness at Level 2. We're still looking at Unit 1 on Day 5 of your course. So your aims and objectives for today are to describe the different symptoms for different types of dementia, different causes of dementia. As always, please take a look at the green box on the right hand side to help you to answer the question. So a bit of background information here. We looked at this last week, so a bit of a recap on understanding dementia. So there are over 100 different types of conditions that can cause symptoms of dementia, and we're looking at Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. If you think about these as different types of dementia, that's fine. But remember, these are causes of the symptoms of dementia. So dementia is very complex. It affects brain functioning, relating to irreversible loss of cognitive capacity and memory. So there's a decline in a person's behaviour and their ability to function socially, physically and emotionally over time. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia in the UK. The exact cause of Alzheimer's is not fully understood, but there are a number of things that can increase your risk of developing the condition, and these include increasing age or getting older, a family history, untreated depression, and lifestyle factors and conditions that are affecting your heart and blood flow. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia, with approximately 60 to 80% of dementia cases being Alzheimer's disease. In Alzheimer's, there are abnormal deposits of protein in the brain, so messages aren't able to get through clearly. There is also evidence of nerve cell damage and cell death. In the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, somebody may forget about recent conversations or events. They might misplace items or forget the names of places and objects. They might really struggle to think of the right word. They might ask questions repetitively over and over and over. They might have poor judgment or find it hard to make decisions. They might become less flexible and more hesitant to try new things. There are sometimes mood changes as well, such as anxiety, agitation, and periods of confusion. In the middle stages, people with Alzheimer's disease might find it difficult to remember the names of the people they know and might struggle to recognise their family and friends. They might have increasing confusion and disorientation, like getting lost or wandering, not knowing what time of day it is. They might have obsessive, repetitive or impulsive behaviours. They might have delusions, which is believing things that are untrue, or feel paranoid and suspicious about carers or family members trying to help them. They might have problems with speech or language. This is known as aphasia. Continuing with the middle stages, they may have disturbed sleep. They might have changes in their mood, such as frequent mood swings, depression, and feeling increasingly anxious, frustrated, or agitated. They might find it difficult to judge distances. They might see or hear things that other people do not. These are called hallucinations. And by this stage, the middle stage of Alzheimer's disease, people usually need support to help them with everyday living, so they might need help with eating, washing, getting dressed and using the toilet. In the later stages of Alzheimer's disease, the symptoms get more severe and it can be very distressing for the person with the condition as well as their carers and their families. Hallucinations and delusions may come and go over the course of the illness, but can get worse as the condition progresses. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's disease can be violent, demanding, and suspicious of those around them. In the later stages, people may have difficulty eating and swallowing. This is known as dysphagia. They might have difficulty changing position or moving around without assistance, so they might not be able to roll over in bed and stop themselves being uncomfortable. They may have weight loss, which could be severe. They might have urinary incontinence or bowel incontinence. They'll gradually lose their speech, and they'll have significant problems with their short and long-term memory. In the final stages of Alzheimer's disease, people will need full-time care and assistance with eating, moving, and personal care. The most common symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are short-term memory loss, not remembering events that have happened, misplacing or losing items like putting a cardigan in the fridge, disorientation in terms of time and place, like going shopping at 3 a.m, communication challenges and not being able to hold a conversation, making judgments, especially around risk and danger, like going out without suitable clothing in snow and ice. Vascular dementia. So vascular dementia is caused by blood vessel problems. The blood vessel problems lead to reduced blood flow, and this can result in the damage to cells as they do not receive oxygenated blood. The cells in the brain can die because of the lack of oxygen. In the early stages of vascular dementia, they can be mild, such as slowness of thought, difficulty planning, trouble understanding, problems with concentration, mood or behaviour changes, and problems with memory or language, but these aren't as common as they are in people with Alzheimer's disease. At this point, these problems might barely be noticeable, and they could be mistaken for something else like depression, but they do indicate that some brain damage has occurred and that treatment is needed. In the later stages of vascular dementia, the symptoms will get worse over time. This may happen slowly, or it could be in sudden steps every few months or years. The symptoms are going to depend on the part of the brain that's affected, but it could be significant slowness of thought, disorientation and confusion, memory loss and difficulty concentrating, difficulty finding the right words, personality changes like becoming aggressive, depression, mood swings, a lack of interest or a lack of enthusiasm, difficulty to walk and keep balance and falling over frequently, bladder incontinence, and difficulty with daily activities, so that's your things like washing and dressing and personal care, toileting, things like that. The most common symptoms of vascular dementia. So although its causes are different to Alzheimer's disease and the brain is affected differently, some symptoms are similar to Alzheimer's, like losing items, memory loss and disorientation. But the key symptoms that are unique to the vascular dementia are a slower thinking process, so thinking is slower, so everything that they're doing is going to be slower. Mood swings, so it could be a display of high emotions, suddenly going from being really, really angry to really, really happy. Mobility, so there'll be changes to how they walk, and this can be a very early symptom of vascular dementia. Let's look at Lewy bodies. So Lewy bodies are clumps of protein that develop in the cortex, resulting in dementia. The clumps of protein can also be found in the cortex of people with Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. People with dementia with Lewy bodies may have problems with understanding, thinking, memory, judgment, and this is similar to Alzheimer's disease, although memory may be less affected with people with Lewy bodies. So concentrate on the understanding, thinking and judgment there. Periods of fluctuating alertness, alternating with periods of confusion or sleepiness. And this may change over hours or days, so somebody could be fast asleep for an hour and then wide awake for the next hour and fast asleep again, but it could be fast asleep for a full 24 hours. They may have slow movements, stiff limbs and tremors, which are uncontrollable shaking. They may have hallucinations, usually seeing or sometimes hearing things that aren't there. They could have disturbed sleep with violent movements and shouting out. They could faint, be unsteady and have falls. These problems can make daily activities such as washing and dressing and mobilising and toileting very difficult, and someone with the condition may be eventually unable to look after themselves. Problems with mental abilities. So, as with other types of dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies can cause problems with their thinking speed, their understanding, judgment, visual perception, language and memory, although the memory loss doesn't really occur until later on. These problems could be constant, but typically they tend to come and go, so they're not going to be there all the time. The most common difference of Lewy body dementia is the visual hallucinations. So although people with Alzheimer's disease can get these visual hallucinations, they are way more common in a person with Lewy body dementia. The visual hallucinations are normally about animals or people, but they could be audio, like hearing sounds that are not real. The visual hallucinations can be very real to the person, and it can cause a great deal of distress and fear. They may also have vivid dreams, so just like the hallucinations, they may be very scary as well. And this is what causes all that movement in the person's sleep, and because their sleep is affected, it's going to change their behaviour throughout the day. Attention and alertness, so people may have different levels of alertness and attention at different times, and this could change hour by hour. Like they may be chatting to you very normally over a coffee in the morning. They might not know you by lunchtime, but by evening they're happy to talk to you again about a TV show that they love. So the change of alertness can massively differ throughout the day. And these are the more common symptoms in Lewy bodies. So although in Alzheimer's and vascular dementia, some of the symptoms may cross over, like memory loss, losing items, disorientation, it's visual hallucinations, vivid dreams, attentional alertness that are the most common different symptoms for a person with Lewy bodies. Frontotemporal dementia is an uncommon type of dementia that mainly affects the front and sides of the brain. It causes problems with behaviour and language. So it's an umbrella term for a number of diseases, including Pick's disease, which I asked you if you wish to research that previously, I would recommend it. People with frontotemporal dementia develop the condition a lot younger, so they're around 45 to 60 years as on average. Some are younger, some are older. People with frontotemporal dementia generally survive a shorter time than those with Alzheimer's, so it's hitting people when they're a lot younger and they are dying quicker. So there are lots of different personality and behaviour changes here. People could be insensitive or rude, they could act impulsively, they could lose their inhibitions, they could seem subdued, lose interest in things, lose motivation, not be able to empathise with others, so they might seem very cold and very selfish and like they don't care. They could have repetitive behaviours like humming, hand rubbing, foot tapping. They could overeat or have a change in preferences of food, like suddenly loving sweet foods, and they could have very poor table manners. Some people will go from being vegetarian all of their lives to suddenly eating lots of meat, although the sweet foods is more common. They'll neglect their personal hygiene, and as the condition progresses, people will become more socially isolated and withdrawn. So it can sometimes have an effect on language problems as well as the behavioural issues that we looked at on the previous slide. So they might use words incorrectly, like calling a sheep a dog. They might lose some words or lose some of the vocabulary. They might repeat a limited number of phrases, forget the meaning of common words. They might speak slowly or hesitantly. They might have difficulty making the right sounds to say words. They might get words in the wrong order. They might automatically repeat something that someone said to them. Some people will gradually lose the ability to speak and eventually may become completely mute. Problems with thinking. So these don't tend to occur in the early stages, but can occur as the condition progresses. So the person might have difficulty working things out and need to be told what to do. They might be very poor at organising. They could be easily distracted. They might be rigid and inflexible, not able to think outside the box. They might lose the ability to understand abstract ideas, so things that aren't factual. They might have difficulty recognising their family. They might have memory difficulties, but this is not a common symptom early on. So physical problems. In the later stages, people with frontotemporal dementia develop physical problems and difficulty with movement. So they could have very slow and stiff movements. It can affect their swallowing. They're going to lose their bowel and bladder control. So the most common symptoms of a person with frontotemporal dementia is that it largely affects people between age 30 and 60, but it can be found in older people. There are similarities to the different types or causes of dementia that we looked at, such as Alzheimer's disease, Lewy bodies, and vascular dementia. But the key common symptoms in frontotemporal dementia that make it different are the personality changes and the eating habits. So people's personality can change, so they appear very rude or very impatient. They can behave inappropriately in public, like shouting at people or removing clothing. They may also appear very selfish and, like I said before, unable to empathise, so not able to see why somebody is upset or sad by something, even if it's something tragic like a death. Their eating habits, so it's quite common for people to crave sweet foods, as I said previously. They can also overeat, so they could have been a particular person who was into their diet and exercise, but now they'll overeat regardless of what kind of diet they had in the past. It can be very difficult for family members and friends of the person with frontotemporal dementia. So remember, the people are sort of, 30 to 60, 45 to 60-ish in age when they're getting frontotemporal dementia, so they're very much in almost the prime of their lives. So it can be very difficult for family and friends to take on these personality changes and understand what's happening, because obviously on the outside the person will still look the same. So I would like you to describe the likely symptoms and signs of the most common causes of dementia. So you need to write about 3 sentences for each type of dementia, and you need to show your understanding of the signs and symptoms for the most common types of dementia. So you're going to do this question for Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia. You will now have achieved your aims and objectives of describing the different symptoms for different causes of dementia.